you once again for coming. We can start. Today I have four wonderful women who are going to be giving us their views. And our women's conversation today, we are looking at the societal view on women. What is the societal view on women? That is what we are looking at. And I have invited women in the development sector. We have been working with women who really understand the struggles that some of the women are facing in the professional world. So I want to welcome my guest today. I have Nyari Mashaya Mombe. She's one of my guests today, and she is a woman who have really transformed the girls and adolescents. She has won so many awards, and we are honored to have her today. We have Maria, who is replacing Stabile Dewa, because Stabile Dewa has just traveled, but the board chair for WALPE is here, and Maria is coming in. She has a wealth of information. She has been working with women and in Angola, here in Zimbabwe. So we have been honored to have here. We have Doreen, and Doreen, she has been working with women's organizations. Most of the women's organizations are also part of a domain where she has been helping different women's organizations, which I will let her mention. And we also have Rumbi, who has also worked with many women's organizations. And she's a busy woman, being a mother, a wife, a sister, and all that. So I'm really privileged to have these women today. So I just want to give them the time for them to introduce themselves. And when you are introducing yourselves, ladies, just tell us briefly about yourself and your views on a complete woman. What is your view on a complete woman? So I just want to start with you, Rumbi. Can you come in, just tell us what is your view on a complete woman, and also introduce yourself briefly. I'll just give you maximum of 3 minutes to do that. Over to you, Rumbi.
Thank you very much, Olivia, and good evening to all of us. Please just confirm with a thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm Rumbi Makoni. I am a women's rights activist. Currently, I'm working with ActionAid International as a policy advisor on feminist alternatives, a conversation I would really love to have later or in another space if time permits. I am a mother, as my profile states, and I think it's very important for us as women to identify all the spaces that we fill, right? So I'm a mother of 3 beautiful children, 2 boys and a girl. I'm a wife to 1 husband. I am a daughter, a tete, my nini, Murora, sister, aunt, all of those things. I believe I'm a leader in my own right. And I think as women, we are leaders in our own rights. And for me, the reason why I'm bringing all this into my introduction is because that's what I feel being a woman is, a complete woman. And I think if you really take a deep dive in all these descriptions, we need to show up in those spaces differently. So, for example, the time I'm a tete, or the time I'm a leader in my workplace is very different or presents very different dynamics from the time I am a murora. I'm hoping that we all understand Shona. And those kind of rights. And it means we are a very powerful gender because we are so many things in one. And I think in all of this, because we present in many different ways, we need to then always be in a space where we are checking our privilege, checking our power. When I'm in a position of power, how am I using that power to enhance the people around me, especially the women and girls? When I'm in a situation where I'm in Murora and I'm expected to, take a back seat or be seen and not be heard kind of thing, how am I dealing with that situation? Being the very opinionated person that I am, how am I showing up in that space? So this, in a nutshell, Olivia, is I think what forms this beautiful creature called a woman, and I think it's beautiful that you set up this space to discuss these issues because we find ourselves many times lost somewhere, not knowing how to how to how to present ourselves in spaces, how to show up for other people, how to show up for other women. So yeah, thanks, and over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Rumbi, for your introduction. I really like it that you are almost everything, and the good thing about us women is we are all leaders in our own right. We are all leaders in our own right. So I am handing over to you, Nyari. Just tell us briefly who you are and what are your views on a complete woman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olivia. As you know, my name is Advocate Nyalima Shamombe. I represent two organizations, that is Take a Life International Trust Study for Girls and Young Women, and then Identities Media as a storytelling and other projects that we do. Mm-hmm. We just hosted some beautiful awards recently, the LIST Awards. My view on a complete woman, I think what comes to mind is, I'm just building from what Ruby has shared, which is very profound. I think she has laid ground for all of us, mainly as an African woman. So I will then perhaps take it in and not either higher or lower, depending on how you look at it, to say, for me, a complete woman is a woman who is able to define what Ruby has just said in their own terms. Not according to anybody else, but according to them. So, for example, I'm a single woman, never been married, feminist, and I embrace my own type of feminism. I'm very spiritual, very religious. So whereas other women around me would view feminism as an opportunity to, for example, to make their own choices. I make my own choices that are perhaps conservative or not conservative. So for me, a complete woman or a complete girl is a girl who is able to define what womanhood or girlhood is. So for example, to be able to make decisions, to choose not to marry under pressure. And just because everybody else is getting married at 21, 22, to say, look, I haven't met that person even at 44 years old. Which can come out to other people as, but that's my definition. Where people say, oh, as an auntie, I need to go to every funeral or to every wedding. A lot of people can't believe that I'm very introverted and that I don't like public spaces. So I'm not going to be that person who's going to be in public spaces. Just deciding. So for me, a complete woman is a woman that chooses to live their life at their terms, despite how it may be an inconvenience for those around them. For example, I'll give an example. One of my sisters snapped at one point, said, "What do you think is so special about you? Why are you not married?" And there I was looking at my not being married as thinking that, look, people think that I'm a sorry state, but someone views me as so empowered that I also, again, I think I want to bring the point that completeness is a journey. So long as we are alive, you can't arrive until you are dead.
That's true.
So, for example, I could have made decisions as a woman where I couldn't make in my best interest, but I am then able to pivot those decisions. For example, if I got married very early on and I meet certain opportunities, and I think the ability to then say, wait a minute, I want to go to school, I want to do this, that, and actually being able to then be able to advocate for yourself and go to invest in yourself little by little, trying to pivot, trying to make some changing trajectory. For me, I think that is a way of being a complete woman, building on the on what has been layered. So I think also being a complete woman is a process of layers. It is defining the self. It is also coming with decisions, the ability to make decisions for the self, and then the agency to be able to walk in those decisions, whether they make others comfortable or not.
Thank you, Nyari.
I think I'll end here.
Thank you very much, Advocate Nyari, for that. For sure, it's for me, a complete woman is just when you're comfortable with the decision that you have made as a person. That's a complete woman, in my own view, and I support that. I want to come to you, Doreen. What is just give us just a brief introduction of yourself, and what is your view on a complete woman, just briefly.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Olivia. And thanks to Nyari and Ruby for saying everything. Now we don't have anything to say because they've pretty much said it all. So I'm Tendai, and I'm working for a Swedish international NGO called Diakonia. We are into gender justice work and governance, where we are working with various women's rights organizations that aim to empower women's leadership, women's political participation, access to sexual reproductive health, rights, and services. So for me, I think Ruby and Nyari rightfully said that it's a unique way in which one identifies themselves, and it's not defined by different benchmarks in society. And for me, a complete woman is someone who's empowered, self-sufficient, who can take care of the individual needs.
Nyari, you can mute your mic. Thank you. Advocate Nyari, can you mute your mic?
Yes,
thank you.
Sorry about that.
All right. So I was saying a complete woman is someone, according to me, who's self-sufficient, who can meet your everyday needs. When you want to buy something, you can make a decision. I don't have to consult someone that I need to buy a new dress for myself. I'm empowered to make choices, say on family planning matters, individual choices concerning career. A complete woman, of course, a person cannot be complete according to me in isolation. So it means interdependency. There are other women supporting me in my journey. There are other people supporting me in my journey. A complete woman for me, the family does, play its role. The children, the different family members do play a role in making me a complete person. And I think a complete person is one who can express themselves freely and not fearing what the next person thinks or what the community says, really.
Thank you.
Completeness is really being able as well to take off the self, despite the pressures we have, to conform and to be balancing, being a mother, being an aunt, being whoever, the different roles that Rumi said. If you need to be complete, or if you want to be complete according to my definition, you need to be able to balance and also take care of the self. And
that's
this
true.
Means, relaxing and not conforming to some of the pressures. I was laughing with someone, I think a few days ago, telling them that, some 10 or 15 years back, I felt the pressure or the need to be keeping the house spick and span. I know what's going on in my children's life. I know what's going on in my husband's life, my in-laws, my family as well, where I come from. But guess what? This really just wears you out. No one comes and gives you an award, to be up to date and up to scratch with everything. So we need to take care of the self, take it easy on ourselves, and just try and balance it out. And for me, that's being complete.
Thank you, Doreen, for that presentation. For me, what really comes in is a complete woman is someone who is empowered, is someone who is self-sufficient. Of course, you're not living in a vacuum, you live in a community. But how do you manage yourself in that community? How do you stamp in your authority in that community? It's something that is really necessary. So I'll come to you, Maria. What's your brief introduction and your view of a complete woman? Thank you for coming last minute.
Thanks, Dr. Olivia. And just to say that I've known you all my life in terms of my career life. So it's amazing to be in this space, although in the last minute edition. It's happened here. But just to say, I'm the board chairperson of Women's Academy for Leadership and Political Excellence. And we work a lot with women in leadership and in politics. I'm also the global research lead for Restless Development, which is based in the UK, but we also have a country office here. And like Olivia said, I was in Angola for a couple of years, and I opened an organization called Manacor. It's still functioning, but it works on adolescent and youth sexual and reproductive health and rights. I am a mother of 3. I've got a son who doesn't look like my son, he looks more like my brother, and 2 more girls. After more than a decade staying in Angola, I then decided to come back for obvious personal reasons, which I will share in another space. But yeah, that's about me. And when you asked about a complete woman, I just had a few minutes to look at the questions. And I kept asking myself, do we actually have complete women? Like, is it, just the term complete woman? I think we have so many things that sometimes we cannot do. And I think the whole thinking of completion and being complete women has led us to really getting stressed, staying in relationships where we are not wanted anymore, tolerating violence, tolerating situations which we feel uncomfortable with. And this has been because of the notion of us being complete women. But I feel that, in my opinion, we are complete because we are incomplete, in a sense. What makes a complete woman is just that incompleteness. Because there are times that I just look back and I say some statements that I say, oh my gosh, is this me? Yes. I thought I was a feminist.
That's
because
true.
I'm incomplete, I'm not yet there. And I'm still trying and aspiring to be a better person.
That's
but
true.
It's also about recognizing that we are not perfect and we'll always have imperfections. But how are we working to make sure that we are actually reaching a certain level where we provide the maximum possible support to the people around us, but at the same time focusing on our self-care, mental health, and ensuring that we remain positive no matter what life brings us. I know people always say, and it's a notion that I actually don't believe in. How, in our completeness, can we come torn and battered, but still deliver on what we want to deliver on? So, I mean, in terms of completeness, I'm not too sure what that means. And I think Rumbi has alluded to that. I learned with Rumbi at St. Dominic's Chishawasha, so I'm so happy that she's in this platform. I'm also glad, Doreen, thank you so much for what you said. I learned with Doreen at Thornhill High School, and Nyare, I've known her in the struggle. So what you said is very important, and I will not repeat it, but just in addition is that we are not complete yet, and we've got our shortcomings, but we always aspire to be the best versions of ourselves. And I think that is, for me, that is what makes a complete woman, aspiring for the best version of yourself.
Oh, thank you very much, Maria, for that. For sure, when you're aspiring to be the best version of yourself, that's a complete woman. And I think it has been an honor for me to have you, although it was last minute coming, but seeing you growing, and wow, here we are. So I just want to go to our first topic. We are looking at misunderstanding gender equality and empowerment. Normally what I do is I just do a little bit of book reading and then would go straight to the point. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a bit and then I would leave time for our guest to come in. I'm sorry, I'm multitasking on my own, admitting people and all that. But on misunderstanding gender equality and empowerment, in the book on page 99, it says certain cultural and religious elements that promote the patriarchal system exacerbate this situation when males in positions of authority in the community, society, and religion use their position to stifle these women through sermons or community discussions. The situation becomes even more dear for them. So this is more of the how men would use some of these platforms, either at church or in society, just to undermine women. And the societal impact of these influential males tends to solidify prejudice against unmarried women who espouse feminist principles. So I'll just jump into what other voices have said in the book. They have said, I have been put in an awkward situations. When I talk about gender equality, I was on a radio show presenting on 16 days of activism. During the program, there were more men who called in who were against gender equality. The men also went on to ask if I was married, pointing out that I was not marriage material because I am an advocate of gender equality. It is a pity that our societies are still embedding this belief that stereotype single women. So this is what is there. So I just want to check with you, Doreen or Tendai, to say what is your experience on different interpretations of gender issues and some resistance that you might have faced because of religious patriarchal system. What advice do you give to women working in these areas? So over to you, Doreen, on this. I don't know who is there, who hasn't unmuted. Can you just unmute your mic so that we have one person coming in? So over to you, Doreen, to give us your response.
All right.
I can see the beautiful girl there.
It's a boy.
Oh, wow.
Boy.
Beautiful boy. You should come to mother-son adventure.
Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead.
So thank you, Doc, again. So what I've encountered, maybe the misperceptions, the word gender itself, you know, when dealing with community rights holders and even some government officials, ministry departments, you know, at times they just used to shut. When you speak out the word gender, you know, they just assume work on gender equality is about taking power from someone and giving it to someone. I think over time, you know, gender has been redefined, and also, you know, there is better understanding now with our local authorities, with the government line ministries, communities, we still find ourselves having to look for alternative words or words with a softer landing, making communities understand that gender equality is not about taking power from someone, giving it to someone, but what we are really speaking about is about having an environment where equal opportunities for men and boys, girls and women are equal.
for both men and boys, men and women to thrive. It's not really about taking power from anyone. So that really has been my experience with gender equality. The buzzwords themselves, gender equality, feminism, some people just shut out. So you find means or words with softer landing, to get through to them. Or you have to start from a point where, they realize that everyone stands to benefit. Then you can bring in the talk about gender equality. So this has really been my experience with gender equality. Then regarding religion as well, it's the buzzwords. Still we have communities, religious leaders who shut out when you talk about gender equality. But what we have had to do is to work through, I'll give an example. If you want to reach out to apostolic communities, we realize that you can't do it yourselves. We have to look for people within that specific religion so that we can work with them, enlighten them, and they can reach out to their peers. So that's how, we work. At times when you cannot penetrate a certain group, you have to do it through their own. This is the advice that I can give to other women working in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tendai, for the advice, especially on how do you penetrate some of the religious circles that you need to go through, the women who are working, who are going to that same religion, for them to go through their religious pastors or their religious leaders. But I also think it is also necessary for women to stand up for what you believe is right, because even in the religious circles, for those who believe in God, they would know. For me, I would know that I'm created equal and I'm created in the image of God. It doesn't talk about gender. It just talks about every human being. So those are some of the issues that you need to keep reminding the religious leaders for them to know, or just to have it at the back of their minds, so that they don't perpetuate patriarchal system in the churches or in communities. So thank you very much for that. We are now moving on to the second chapter. We are looking at older single women. So this one is going to you, Nyari. So I'm just going to do a brief reading from page 96. It says the undermining sorry. This multitasking, I was admitting someone. I'm sorry. So we are now moving on to older single women. So on older single women, it is saying the undermining of older single professional women has increased, particularly those who have been single for over 4 decades. Typically successful, these women own personal residences, maintain and repair their own vehicles, and uphold acceptable social standards across all spheres of influence in life, despite being regarded as second-class citizens or failed human beings. These women are sometimes viewed as women who take advantage of young boys for whom they pay large sums of money in exchange of companionship, only to dump them heartlessly afterwards. This is known popularly as Ben-10 syndrome in the Western societies, coined the Gawker phenomenon. The Ben-10 syndrome is when wealthy women use their financial resources to lure young boys into intimate relationships. Then they would forcibly expel them from the relationship. I'll take maybe one voice that came in from the women that I interviewed. They says, I am a single woman who has been successful career-wise. When talking to people, I can feel they are viewing me as someone who shows off my assets and wants to be treated as a superior being. These people think all single, successful women are abusing younger men and are not women of good morals. This worries me a lot, as this has a lot of potential of isolating single people in society. So this stereotype that women who are single, who have it all, they are isolated in society because they are treated as people who are abusing the Bentons. They are treated as people who are big-headed. They are treated as people who are showing off of their assets. So I just wanted to check from you, Nyari, to say, I know that you are a single, mature woman. Have you suffered this ordeal, or do you know someone who did? For me, definitely, I know many who have suffered this, because many of my friends have suffered this ordeal. What advice do you give to women facing this discrimination? Over to you, Advocate Nyeri.
Thank you so much, Doc. I think, yes, you do come across that, the feeling that you are too showy. So, I think there's also another layer where, personally, you have to, you kind of have to remind people that, look, I don't need someone's, because you're single, perhaps this is from a family setup as single, and then you're being discounted and you are being not treated like an adult. So that's when you feel like you have this, sometimes the need to remind people that, look, I'm perhaps the one who's putting money into this family, whatever. But when it comes to the general scene, like the public where we are functioning, naturally as a woman, I've had to not be upfront and showy about whether I have an asset or anything. Why? Because generally that feeling that you are being too showy, and because I'm still hoping to be on the dating market, there is that feeling that you don't want to offend people by showing off your assets. But generally, I'm also personally not a showy person to say I would want people to know about this or that. If there is a need, I'm going to use that. But as far as also issues of relationships with younger people are concerned, as I was thinking about it, I personally have not experienced it because I think my dating scene is very shrunk. But I think this is something that you will definitely come across the same. If women date, so I'm also just thinking that women must have the right to choose who they date. So I think it comes also again from a patriarchal notion that women should date a certain individual. So for example, we're prescribed that as a woman you must be younger than your husband or the men you're dating. What if I want a younger man, nothing to do with my profiling as a mature single woman, just because men are marrying, if he's 60, he's allowed to marry a 20-year-old all the time. So again, you see the patriarchal stereotyping there. So I think it comes back to the issue I raised earlier on, that I think a complete woman for me is a woman with a choice. If I want to marry an older, I've always wanted to marry somebody who's not too older than me, or for the longest time, I actually wanted to marry somebody younger, because I always felt like patriarchy empowers men because of their age and everything to have a dominance over women. So I always felt like if I got married to someone my age or a little younger, I'll be able to assess myself. So I think it's undermining the choices that women have. That's got nothing to do with whether I've got money or not, but that has everything to do with perhaps the insecurity that I feel as a woman, whether I'm older or I'm younger. So I think that's how I would reflect on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nyari, for that. Because to be honest, stereotyping of single, mature women in the professional world is there. And sometimes it's not even that you are showy, that you have assets, but because they know, they have observed that you have your assets, you are stable. And then people, they just treat you as someone who is showy. They treat you as someone who is stubborn. They treat you as someone who is difficult to please, which are some of the issues that single, mature women are facing, which is unfair in a community. And sometimes where people would only want to have your money, but they don't want to have your voice. So you'd find when there are family gatherings, they are asking you to bring your money because you have it. But when if you are not given because you are told that you are a single person, you are not married. So those are some of the issues that comes in.
That happened, Dr. Olivia, that we wanted to build our mother a house.
Yes.
My mother, it was me, the people who had the means were the girls in our family. My mother would not want us to build that house unless the boys said build the house, and the boys were broke.
Yeah.
So that real undermining of women just because, yes, to be that the real undermining of women that our mothers believe that it's a boy's house, we should do this or that for me. And I don't know what they feel like they failed as a mother if a son fails to build them a house or something. So she would refuse the girls to lead until the boy say we're proceeding with the project. And for sure, we actually had to. It was a lot of us, doing this and that, but it totally happens in families.
In families.
With our own siblings, to say someone who just wants to undermine you as a woman, whether you've got your money or not. Sometimes also as a feminist, you actually have people in the family who actually every family gathering they just come after you. Right, is going to say this, and that's why so that's just that undermining of you with the resources and say we don't care for your resources. You're gonna bring your resources, and we're going to have a say. Yeah,
that's
so
true.
That's pretty common as well.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for bringing it up because it's something that I have noticed with most of my friends who are mature and single, and it's an area that they have been talking about. That's why I had to brought it out, although it's not clearly stated in the book. So thank you very much, Advocate, for that. So we are now moving on to feminist backlash on married women. So there is also an issue of the feminist backlash for us married women. So the book is saying, on the other hand, some married women indicated during the interview that even though society regards them as complete, they do not feel complete themselves because of a new trend in women's feminism that seems to belittle or undermine married women. Strong single feminists are making it difficult for married women to confidently talk about women's rights, as they are viewed as women who are subject to men's submission and are not qualified to champion feminist beliefs. This tension between single and married women contributes to men underplaying the advancement of women's interests, since there is a growing mistrust between the two groups, fragmenting their efforts, which would be more effective if they were united and cohesive. So the voices that came up is saying, I'm a feminist and happily married, but I sometimes have to remind my fellow women that I am a complete feminist, even if I'm married. Some women are of view that feminists are supposed to be single, not married women. There is need to demystify this and embrace each other as feminists. Feminists are for diversity and congregate to fight against a system of patriarchy, not each other. So for us, it's feminists is coming together to fight the patriarchal system, not to fight people, not to fight men, and not to fight each other. So I just want to check from you, Rumbi. You are a married woman. You are a feminist. Have you experienced this backlash from other women? How do you manage to continue advocating for women's rights? And what is the advice that you can give to other married women who are suffering the same backlash? Over to you, Rumbi.
Oh, yeah.
A big one.
You know what? It's true. Okay. You do get those side eyes. Like how do you identify as a feminist and you are married? Because I mean, it's no secret that marriage has its own challenges, right? My simple answer when I'm asked that is we all agree that the current patriarchal systems are not working for us, but we are still, fighting tirimo system, right? So I think allow me to choose my battles, and the woman that you interviewed, you may be in a happy marriage, it's also a little bit unfair to paint the whole gender with a brush. They are not all at the same level of patriarchy. But I want us to zero down on the actual cause, the actual issue that we have. And I think these type of statements or sentiments are the words of patriarchy. I believe that patriarchy is a shapeshifter, and I've always said patriarchy is a shapeshifter. And those people that uphold patriarchal values have a way of worming themselves into the feminist movement or into the women's rights movement, right? To such an extent that they divide us and make it seem as if the women themselves are fighting. Oh gosh, that means feminism is not a good thing. Recently, we've seen a rise in an anti-feminist ideology, where even the young girls are being told, you know what, to hell with feminism, we don't like being strong, we don't like making our own decisions, we want to be taken care of, right? And I think it stems from not understanding what feminism actually is. Okay, and I don't think this is the right platform for us to start dissecting what feminism is and what it isn't. But I think we need to pay attention to the actual problem that we have, which is patriarchy. The moment we understand that this is our issue, we have power dynamics as an issue, then we can start moving forward together. But yeah, that backlash is there, and I think the feminist movement is a hard movement to be in, because you're fighting against systems of oppression. And I've never seen an instance where people who have power and enjoy the benefits of power willingly give up their power. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So if patriarchy is on your side, if it makes life good for you, you're going to resist the ideologies that feminism is coming with, right? But in some way, we still have to push. That's what I think. We still have to push. And I think as women, we also need to provide safe spaces for each other, because it's exhausting having to defend yourself or having to fight the system and then fight feminist sisters in the movement as well. It's exhausting. And I think this is why even these days there's so much mention on self-care. We also need to just take time and retreat and reflect so that we keep our minds in a healthy state. So sometimes also when such statements are thrown around, it's that retreating and taking care of the self, taking care of Ruby. What's working for Ruby? How do I make life work for Ruby, and how do I keep Ruby happy? So I think that would be my submission, Olivia. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So ladies, if you have other questions for our guest today, you can just hold on to them. I'll give you a chance for you to ask them. I know we are almost running out of time, but what I just want to emphasize more on is it's possible for you to be married, happily married, and be a feminist, because feminism is fighting against patriarchal system, and patriarchal system sometimes is perpetuated by other women who are actually standing in the gap and saying no, another woman should feel it, Just like what Nyare was saying, that you would find a mom saying, no, it has to be a boy doing it. But why can you not just put it through for a woman to do it? You can go maybe at a gathering, and then you are told by another woman that no, that's not how you're supposed to be behaving. We need men to be there, not you to be doing this or that. So you'd find that it is ingrained in people, it's socialization. So it is also our responsibility as women to check that whatever the directive that I am giving, the behavior that I am portraying, am I not suppressing another woman? And if you are suppressing another woman, you are perpetuating the patriarchal system. So it starts with you to be a feminist. It starts with you to liberate other women to be who they are, while you are also taking your position of who you are, rather than for you to stand in as a gatekeeper of patriarchy, and you are oppressing other women. You are oppressing other women. That is the system that we are fighting against, not men or other women. So now I will come to you, Maria. We are talking of marriage prospects. Marriage prospects for professional women. Conversely, they are single professional women with admirable personalities who are unable to find life companions due to the perception that they pose a threat to single men. Certain males have a tendency to shun accomplished professional women who are capable of caring for themselves, perceiving them as perfectionists or controlling. Males who possess low self-esteem retreat from these influential women, thereby exacerbating these women's social isolation. So from the interview that I did, there is someone who says, I am successful professional woman who finds herself single since I do not ever find that a man is willing to approach me. I am willing to settle in a serious relationship, but our culture prohibits me from approaching a male first and asking him to become part of my life. This is so frustrating. You have it all. You want the marriage. They are afraid of you because of your social status, and you can't approach them, and you are just there. You are isolated. How do we deal with that? So for you, Maria, I know you work a lot with women, even women in politics, in development, who might be experiencing these issues. What advice do you give to women experiencing this, especially from a WALPE point of view? You work with so many politicians, and they are also part of those who experience this. How do you give them advice? How can they deal with these issues? Over to you, Maria. So I'll just give you just maybe 3 minutes so that I can give the audience after you if they have any questions to ask, since we are running out of time. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, Olivia, thank you so much. And that's a very difficult question. And I think it would be very difficult to give someone advice based on that. Reason being, we've encountered it. I have encountered it actually. Where you find people who tell you, well, you're always working, you always have this good life, you are going to be difficult to please, you're going to be difficult to engage with, and yet it's as simple as we want love, we want affection, but it's difficult to get it because you're perceived to be this successful woman. Especially if you're a feminist, you'll actually be told it's difficult to deal with feminists. So I think that's the most difficult thing. But as a solution, I think it's okay to tell someone that you like them. I once had a conversation with some guys who were saying, you see, the greatest challenge is that you wait for us to approach you. Sometimes we are actually scared to come to you and say, you know what, I like you. We are scared. So you guys can actually lessen the burden by actually approaching us yourselves. So I think patriarchy and society has already defined to us that we should wait for men to approach us, right? We should wait for them to make the first move. But oftentimes, it's also about us having the confidence to say, I can actually make the first move. What's the worst that could happen, right? No one is going to murder you because you told them I like you and they don't like you in return. I mean, it's something that you can take a chance on it. But what's worse is for us to continue following how patriarchy defines us and continue following what society says we should do. we need to make sure that we disrupt in a sense and start redefining our own happiness and saying, okay, what is it that makes me feel good? If I feel good telling someone that, you know what, I actually like you, then it's okay. But if it doesn't make me feel comfortable, then it's also okay. But ultimately, we need to move away from this mentality that men are the ones that are supposed to approach us and actually approach them and actually tell them what we feel. So I think that's the advice I'll probably give to a woman. It's not easy, and I get that. And like I said, we are complete because we are incomplete, and we are aspiring towards a certain level. And because of that, we are going to doubt ourselves. We are going to second guess ourselves and continuously say, is this the right thing for me to do? But ultimately, it's about our own happiness, right? And making sure that we disrupt and we challenge those patriarchal systems and tendencies. Because it's one thing, I've noticed that most of us talk about gender equality, we talk about patriarchy in public forums, and we say, this I would never accept. But then we go to our own homes, we go to our own personal lives, and we start tolerating everything. We start, we become different people whatsoever. So, in my view, we need to live what we preach. And if we preach confidence, and if we preach self-actualization, self-esteem, then that's what we're supposed to project. And that means not just in our professional lives, but also in our personal lives. We need to make sure that we project that self-awareness, that confidence, and be able to really say, this is what is for me, and push for that's for us. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, because you gave me a few minutes already, I'll end here.
All right. Thank you very much, Maria, for that. I think it's a very good intervention to say, what is it that I want? Can I put it out there and be happy rather than for me to just wait and think they would come, and maybe they'll never come. But we also need to disrupt the patriarchal system. For me, it's always disrupting. Most of my time, I think my husband, my sons would tell you, I disrupt patriarchal system. I love my independence. I love myself to enjoy life to the fullest. So for me to enjoy life to the fullest, I have to disrupt some of the patriarchal system that oppresses women naturally. So I would urge everyone to really disrupt the patriarchal system that you'd see is oppressing you, because you were created the same as men, and we are all created in the image of one God, not just men or women, but all of us. So for me, it's a challenge that I always put out there. So before I give our guest today the last round to conclude, is there anyone who has a burning question for the guests? I can give you this time to come in. Anyone who wants to say, who has a question for our guests? If you have, because my screen is too busy, I can't see hands that have been raised. So I'll just give I'll just give you just few seconds to open your mic and come in. Go once, go twice.
Hi, Olivia.
Okay.
I do have a question for the last speaker. This is Lucia.
Okay, you can go ahead, Lucy.
I'm actually asking on behalf of my daughters because I'm already married. And on behalf of my daughters, or on behalf of my friends and nieces who are single. So the last speaker says, one way of dismantling patriarchy is, going for what we want. But I was also just reflecting to say, are we also prepared for some of the outcomes? You see, when you approach a man and you tell them that you want them, and then they turn down your approach, and being patriarchy, how they are going to perhaps go around and say, Mashuranda Kaitigwa, so and so, approached me. So